Hi, and welcome to Replit. Okay, starting in Module 3, Section C, we're going to start using Replit. I'm sorry, I know we just kind of got comfortable using BlueJ, but there's still students who are having Chromebook issues, drive, network drive issues and whatnot, and a lot of schools are going away from Windows machines. So our school had a lot of discussions, and we decided we're just going to pilot Replit now instead of waiting till second semester. I did say, I'll tell you, I told our administration that you guys are a really strong group of kiddos, and I felt that you would be just fine with piloting this. So you will be on the cusp of new things at the virtual school, okay? And the success of this all will come from you and feedback that you give us and showing me how you work through things, okay? But I'm confident that you all will do fine in this. Couple of things. Great thing about Replit is that all programs are saved to it, and it can be accessed from any computer with an internet because it is an online in integrated development environment, so interactive development environment. But at any rate, all of your programs will always be saved in here. You could work from school, you can work from home, you can work from one classroom in the building to another classroom in the building and never have an issue. You can work from a Windows machine, you can work from a Chromebook, okay? You could work from a MacBook even. So it's platform independent, which is fantastic. So with that, let's kind of jump into this a little bit and get to know this system. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can, but Miss Boylan has a tendency to talk a bit, so I'm sorry. First things first, you were given a link in the introduction to Replit, or I can't remember what we named the activity, but in that activity that was in the classroom, there's a link in there which gave you access to our Replit team, okay? And so you would have probably landed on this page. If you have other classes that use Replit, if you have other teams in Replit, to access those, you just want to use this back to all teams or this teams button down here, and on that page all of any other team that you would have would be listed there. Maybe a coding 1 or a coding 2 class is using it, or maybe a web design class, but those would be listed on the teams page. Okay, so with that, let's jump into what a project looks like. So currently the only project that is available in our team is the bingo project, okay? In the instructions in the programming practice, it says that this would say start project, and it will for you the first time you access this project. This student that I'm using here has already looked at the project, so instead of saying start project, it says continue working. So we're just going to click that to actually see the project. Okay, so the first thing we notice is the layout, okay? Now, mind you, I'm on a small window just so that my video isn't gigantic. When you are working, you're definitely going to want to maximize your browser to the full size of your monitor, okay? But even then, you'll notice we still have limited area to do our work. So we're going to make some changes here, okay? So first things first is let's talk about we have panes, okay? So we have this left pane here, which is called our files pane. Our middle pane is generally the editing window, and the right pane, it might have new tabs up here. It might say console. It might say a variety of things, okay? But these are panes. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the order of these panes so that we have more room. I will say that I tried to set up all of the projects so that they looked the same when we came in it, but for whatever reason those settings they didn't set, and when students access it, it goes back to this kind of 3-pane setup. Okay, but no worries, after you've worked with it a couple of times and you've moved panes around, you're gonna start to get a feel for like how they move, what feels good to you when you're programming, setup you like. Okay. First things first, though, is we need to kind of get rid of this files pane because we actually won't use it for quite a bit. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to this icon, and we're going to toggle the sidebar off. We're going to close it. If we wanted to open it, we just, like I said, toggle back on. Oops, toggle back on, and it comes back. Okay. But so we're going to toggle that off. It's getting a little bit better, and in a bigger monitor, this might suffice, having side-to-side editing window and our console. Console is also think of it as the output, okay? But I prefer stacked in this environment where these two panes are stacked on each other, so that's what I'm going to show. Okay, so in order to stack them, we have to do a little bit of manipulating to our environment. So we're going to come up here to these three buttons, right? Or sorry, these three dots. We're going to go ahead and click it. It's going to give us a menu. We're going to come down here to close, and that's going to close this pane. But now we only have the editing window, and that's not going to work. We need that other pane where our console will be at. Okay, so we're going to click it again. This time we're going to click it on the editing window, right? So we click it on the editing window, we say add pane, and we're going to insert the pane down. Okay. So currently we have this new pane added. It says new tab. And so we're just going to leave it as is. Right now we don't have a console because we closed it. But once we run the program, we will have a console or an output window. Okay. So I'll show you what that looks like. And actually, let me show you what it looks like right now. Okay. Because there's still a little bit of manipulation we need to do to our environment. So if I click this green button here, this is our run button. Okay. So it's going to compile a program, meaning check for errors, and it's going to execute or run the program. It does both. You know, in BlueJ, we had to compile first and then we had to run. This one is going to do both. However, if it finds errors, you have to fix the errors before it will run. Okay, so we're going to click this. And you'll notice that the console is, so now we've got this other tab. So we've got new tab and we've got console. Sometimes this console may open down here in our bottom pane. Sometimes it may open in our top pane. We can actually move it if necessary. We can just drag it and drop it as we want. Okay, I like it like this so that it's editing window on top, console output window on bottom. So this is the way I'm going to keep it. Okay, but as you get comfortable, you can decide how you want to do it. Okay, I like it this way because it allows for a lot of room from left to right for us to write and to see output print statements. Okay, so with that, we've got our panes down a little bit. We've got compiling down a little bit. Let's take a look at some things that are in this program. So the header, it's just the same. We're used to this header, okay? But the one thing we're going to want to notice on line 7 here is that the class is called main, okay? Normally, when we create our projects with BlueJ, we can name them ourselves. In Replit, the one that is actually the one that's going to run cannot be anything other than the word main with a capital M. Okay, so we're always going to keep this class, it's always going to be called main. We can add additional classes that work with this main, and we'll do that later, but for now we're always going to have this main class, and it's going to be the one that works with this compile and run button. Okay, it's the one that will run. Okay, so that's one thing. We don't change it, we don't delete it. The other thing we're going to notice is that our classes already come with the main method, so we don't have to write them. I will say that your classes are always going to, your projects, excuse me, are always going to have a main method, and they're always going to have this statement. Okay? You need to leave it, just like it says, it's a blank line added for Replit readability. So when we run this, you see these top two lines in the console window that are just a bit of, you know, I don't want to say gobbledygook, but you know, it's this information that isn't really what our output is. So I've added this blank line so that our output isn't right below it. Instead, there will be a blank line and then our output. It's just for readability. Okay, but I'm going to just show you how this looks. I'm just going to add another print statement. Now notice that when I do the parentheses, it gave me the closed parentheses automatically, and then notice when I add the quotations, it automatically gave me the closed quotations with it. So I'm just going to say hello, hello world. I'm going to close that bad boy up with a semicolon, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to compile and run again by clicking the green button. I will tell you sometimes Replit can be a little slow for the output to come, so you just kind of wait, okay? And there were no errors, so it compiled and then it executed. It gave us this blank line. You'll notice there's a blank line between the top two, just that Replit header. It gave us a blank line and then it gave us the hello world statement, okay? So pretty much it's going to look a lot like BlueJ, okay? But one thing that I want to show you is debugging, because y'all just finished debugging, learning how to debug, or getting debugging, getting error messages in BlueJ and how to work through them. And so now this is a new environment, so I want to show you what those error messages look like. Where do you get them, and how we can use those error messages to decipher stuff. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the I made a boo-boo program all over again, okay? So it's right here. I've already set the pane up. Oh, sorry. Okay. So I've got the I made a boo-boo. It's not called I made a boo-boo. The class is not called that, right? It's always called main. We can't change that now. But the project, when you come into our Replit team, it will be called I made a boo-boo, or it will be called bingo, or it will be called student IO, something like that, right? It will have that name, but when we get inside the class itself, will always be called main, okay? Or at least until we start adding additional classes to it. So at any rate, I've run this, tried to compile. There is an error, remember, right? So let's decipher this message. So if we come up here into those, I told you those funky lines up at the top that were Replit specific. Well, that's where our error messages are going to be. So we come here to the second line, and the first thing it says is main.java. It's telling us it's in the main.java class. If we had multiple class files that we were trying to compile, it would tell us the name of the class file the error is in. But this one is, we only have a main Java file right now, main class. So main is where our error is at, and it says it's on line 28, and the error is that a semicolon is expected. So we're just going to come up here, going to use the line numbers here to the left, find our statement, and sure enough, yep, it's missing a semicolon. So we're going to add the semicolon and compile again. Okay, same thing. This second line here says that our error exists in the main class. It's on line 16, and it says it cannot find symbol uppercase money equals 0. And you remember what happened is we declared money with a lowercase m, but then we tried to refer to it as an uppercase m. And remember, Java is case sensitive, so we can't do that. So we have to fix this uppercase m and make it a lowercase m so that they can talk to each other, and so that we can actually give the variable money value. Okay, so it says line 16. So we're going to scroll up here to line 16. Sure enough, there it is. We're going to make that a lowercase m. Okay, now let's go ahead and run again. There's another error, and this time it says the error is in the main class. It's on line 37, and the error is incompatible types, possible lossy conversion from double to int. What that means is, well, we'll go look. So it says line 37. So let's go look at line 37. So in line 37, it says dollars equals money divided by 100.0. Okay, so dollars is integer. Money is an integer, and we're trying to divide by a decimal value. Well, we can't divide integers by decimals. And what it's saying when it says possible lossy conversion from double to int, what it means is we may lose some value, some decimal values if we tried to do this. Okay? So we don't want to lose decimal values. Instead, we decide, oh, dollars shouldn't be an integer, it needs to be a double. So while this error, the incompatible type, the possible lossy conversion from double to int, takes place on line 37, to correct it, we have to go back up to the top where our variables are. So we're going to come up here to the top, and we're going to change dollars from an int to a double. Okay. We will wait a moment. Oh, yeah, this one, you'll notice in this program, because I took it straight from the text file that's in the assignment, and I didn't add that blank line for readability. And so you'll notice that there's the 2 lines for Replit information, and then our output starts immediately afterwards. I just don't like it being on top of each other like that. That's why I'm going to always add that blank line to our programs. Okay. But so notice there were no syntax errors. It compiled and it ran appropriately. I had already corrected the for loop issue, so it actually looks like it's supposed to as well. Okay, but so that's how you're going to find those errors. Be sure to be looking at that second line. It's going to tell you what class it's in. It's going to tell you what line the error is on, and it's going to give you an error message that will help you decipher what's going on in there. And even, actually, I forgot. Let's do this. Let's take this back out. Let's run it again. It's going to give us one error. And so on line 2, it's going to tell us, like I said, the class, the line number. It's going to give us the error, but then notice it's also going to show us what that line looks like and try to point us in the right direction. So it's got this little caret at the end of our print statement that's trying to point us to the fact that we need to have a semicolon right there. Okay, so yeah, I forgot. There's actually more to it than that. It gives us the error, and then it tries to give us this caret to point to where it believes the error is and where to fix it. Okay, so that's about it for now. I think you're going to be fine. But if you ever have any issues when working with Replit, be sure to reach out to me. We can work through it together. All right? So with that, I'll let you go. Have a great day.